How the Grinch stole science.
Every LTSer down in LTSville liked science a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of LTSville, did not. The Grinch hated science, and I'm really not teasing. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that he didn't get his experiment quite right. It could be that he encountered electricity with his kite. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his brain was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his brain or his kite, he stood there on Science Eve, hating the LTSers, staring down from his cave with his sour Grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every LTSer down in LTSville beneath was busy now hanging an asses and bases wreath. "And they're looking through their microscopes," he snarled with a sneer. "Tomorrow is Science Day, it's practically here." Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, "I must find a way to keep science from coming." For tomorrow he knew all the LTSer girls and boys would wake up bright and early, and they'd rush for their science equipment. And then, oh the inquiry, inquiry. That's the one thing he hated, the inquiry. Then the LTSers, young and old, would sit down to experiment, and they'd experiment, and they'd experiment, and they'd experiment. They would start with tectonics and the rare science of yeast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every LTSer down in LTSville, the tall and the small, would stand close together, and this is no fable. They'd stand hand in hand and start reciting the periodic table. And they'd recite, and they'd recite, and they'd recite. And the more the Grinch thought of the LTSer science recite, the more the Grinch thought, "I must stop this whole fright. Why, since 1993 I've put up with it now. I must stop science from coming, but how?" Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. "I know just what to do," the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick scientist tie and a lab coat. And he chuckled and clucked, "What a great Grinchy lie! With this lab coat and this bow tie, I'll look just like Bill Nye the Science Guy. All I need is a solar car." The Grinch looked around, but since solar cars are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, "If I can't find a solar car, I'll make one instead." So he called his lizard Max, then he took some red thread, and he tied a big solar panel on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle car, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" and the car started down toward the homes where the LTSers lay a snooze in their town. All the windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. The LTSers were all dreaming science dreams without care, when he came to the first house in the square. "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy non-scientist hissed, as he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid in the triple glazed window, a rather tight pinch, but if Bill Nye could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the window screen too, where the little LTSer microscopes all sat in a row. These microscopes, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every equipment. Test tubes, flasks, petri dishes, and lab rats, projectiles, telescopes, experiment stats. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimbley. Then he slunk to the fridge, recently donated by Teppermans, and he took the LTSer's feast. He took the genomically selected roast beast. He cleaned out that fridge as quick as puppet flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last of their caffeine stash. Then he stuffed all the food out the window with glee. "And now," grinned the Grinch, "I will take curiosity." And the Grinch grabbed the server and he started to shove, when he heard the small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small LTS little Bonnie Lou who was not more than 25. The Grinch had been caught by this little LTS founder who'd got out of bed for a cup of Diet Coke. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our curiosity? Why?" But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a motherboard on this server that won't work on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a Diet Coke, and he sent her to bed. And when Bonnie Lou went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the server up. Then the last thing he took was the outreach portal. Then he went to the window himself with a chortle. And the one speck of science that he left at North Rutledge Park was an idea that was even too small for Idea Park. Then he did the same thing to the LTS outreach sites, leaving science much too small for volunteer delights. It was 1/4 dawn, all the LTSers still abed, all the LTSers still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their pipettes, the challenge, the dry ice, the kits, and Science with Impact. It wasn't very nice. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode to the tip-top to dump it. "Pooh-pooh to the LTSers," he was Grinchishly humming. "They're finding out now that no science is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then all the LTSers down in LTSville will all cry, boo-hoo." "That's a noise," grinned the Grinch, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But that sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was merry, very. He stared down at LTSville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every LTSer down in LTSville, the tall and the small, was experimenting without any equipment at all. He hadn't stopped science from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without pipettes. It came without kits. It came without lab coats, wild hair, or misfits. And he puzzled 3 hours, till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe science, he thought, isn't a bore. Maybe science, perhaps, means a little bit more. Maybe science isn't about being Einstein or Nobel. Maybe science is something we all should understand well. Then the Grinch started to smile as he realized his folly. Studying science is actually hands-on and quite jolly. It can help me to understand the world around me, and I shouldn't drop it in school before I know what I'll be. And what happened then? Well, in LTSville they say that the Grinch's small brain grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his brain didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back equipment and hands-on activities for learners. And he himself, the Grinch, lit the 20th anniversary Bunsen burners.